Hi, thank you for joining today. I understand you're familiar with ServiceNow, particularly the MID server. Could you explain in your own words what a MID server is and how it functions within a network?
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Absolutely. So a mid server acts as a bridge between ServiceNow instance and the network of the client, where the mid server is hosted. It's typically installed on the host in the network by the administrators. And this mid server is essential for connecting other applications to the instance. For example, with Discovery, the mid server scans the network devices and securely transform data back to the instance through firewall. So with this, we are getting secure communication, we are getting hassle-free communication, and we are getting fast communication. This is the whole motto of mid server.
Great, and can you walk me through the process of installing a MID server? What are some important things to consider during setup?
Sure. The installation process varies depending on the host operating system. So based on your host operating system, you have to download it from ServiceNow instance. Then we go to the host, open the mid server settings, and their config.xml file is there. In that config.xml file, we have to make some adjustment like the credentials, all these things we have to provide. So once we update the name and credential in the config.xml file, then we have to make sure that mid server service is on that host. Then we have to make sure ServiceNow mid server should be able to, interact with the discoverable devices. It means their ports are open so that whatever commands ServiceNow mid server want to execute, they execute and share the detail with the ServiceNow instance.
You mentioned security. What security measures can be taken to ensure the MID server data is protected?
Yes, it is. Security is a major focus when we dealing with mid server because this mid server is client's network, right? Is in client's network, and so we have no option to compromise with the security anyhow here. So one thing which we are taking care is encrypting mid server parameter values in the config XML file, particularly for sensitive informations like passwords. So for this, we are using AES 256 encryption algorithm. Along with this, additionally, we can enforce basic authentication for SOAP request. We can restrict access to the mid server configuration file so that nobody else apart from the admin can access this file. And we can even use certificates or mutual authentication for interactions. So all these options we are having so that we can ensure secure data transfer and operations.
I see. Now, let's say you need to upgrade a MID server. How would you go about it? Are there any options for handling the upgrade?
Yes, based on the requirement, when we upgrade, we have to upgrade the mid server as well. The mid server has an automated upgrade process where it periodically checks for the updates from the instance. If it finds a new version or new update there, it automatically downloads the installer and runs the package. But there are settings where you can prefer manual upgrade if needed. Okay, so all these options are available.
MID server issues can be inevitable. How would you approach troubleshooting problems that arise with a MID server?
Yes, till now I have got various opportunities where I troubleshooted the issues in mid server. So for troubleshooting, I would start by checking the mid server status within the instance to monitor active issues. So ServiceNow automatically discover active issues, so we have to go and look into it. Apart from that, there are certain well-known issues, so we can see all such well-known issues or well-known known errors in ServiceNow site, that is ServiceNow support site, high knowledge base. Apart from that, I am regularly checking the mid server logs and ECC queue. Okay. From that also we can see what are the errors which are coming, what are the warnings which are coming. So based on that, using that, we can easily, not easily, but we can find out if there are any issues which we have to troubleshoot.
Let's shift gears a bit. Could you explain how the MID server handles password encryption and why it's important?
Certainly, as I already mentioned, the MID server use AES 256 encryption to secure the passwords. So when a username and password initially set in config.xml file, the password stored as a clear text that we have to configure, right? After that, the MID server automatically encrypt the password. If you go and check the file right now, okay, then you can see the password is now updated with the encrypted value. This process ensures that the passwords are never stored on the disk in an unencrypted format. So the credentials are only decrypted in memory when needed for operations, any kind of operation which is needed. And then the whole transfer between instance and mid server happens over the encrypted TLS session. So a lot of security is available here.
That's a solid explanation. How about when it comes to governing inactive MID servers? What happens if a MID server becomes inactive for too long?
So I would say this is a good question. Okay, mid server governance is very important, and mid server governance can be enabled to automatically shut down inactive mid servers after a certain period of time. By default, this timeout should be 30 days, but it can be customized. All depends on your configurations. You can change it. Along with this, if a mid server is ideal for too long time, okay, in that case, it get automatically invalidated, meaning it will shut down and it can't be used until it is validated again, okay, manually. So such feature help prevent forgotten or inactive mid servers from being used if the instance is compromised.
Interesting. You touched on SSL certificates earlier. Could you explain how SSL certificates are used with MID servers?
Okay, sure. See, SSL certificates are used to secure the communication between mid server and the external resources, or you can say sources. You can configure the mid server to connect over SSL by installing the necessary certificate on the host machines. So this ensures that the data transferred during network operations like involving discovery or orchestration is encrypted and protected from potential threats.
And when it comes to discovering devices on a network, how does the MID server handle protocols like SSH and SNMP?
Okay, so for Unix-based machines, the MID server uses the SSH protocol to secure and exchange data over the encrypted channel, usually on port 22. With SNMP, which is a common for network devices like router and switches, the MID server uses a community string for authentication. Both protocols ensure secure communication, but SNMP is typically used for scanning devices such as printer or load balancers, while SSH is preferred for more secure server-based communications.
One last question. How do you ensure that external systems or network devices, especially those with strict security measures, allow the MID server to run queries?
So I would say this is a critical aspect to consider. If a network device is having a strict security measures like restricting connections from an IP address, then we have two options here. The first one is you can update the device configuration to allow the mid server to query it to run commands through it. For example, a router might allow specific IPs to perform SNMP queries. This is the first option. Alternatively, you can install the mid server on the machine that has already has access to these devices. So this is the second option. Okay. Like inside the DMZ, okay, dematerialized zones where external communication is restricted. So by using these two ways, you ensure that a mid server is able to run the queries, execute the commands properly.
Excellent insights. Thank you for walking me through your understanding of the MID server.
Thank you so much. It was a great discussion on this topic. Bye.